6:05, call into session the Town of Halifax Planning Board scheduled meeting for October 20th, 2022. Members present: Mark Milius, Amy Troop, and Brendan Elliott. On the agenda for appointments at 7 p.m., we have a hearing for 8 Hilda Lane Realty Trust for a definitive subdivision modification. At 7:15, we have ADGA Realty LLC and Malden Redevelopment LLC for 0 and 59 or 592 Plymouth Street for a site plan review. We have discussion for Nesrella's Farms for the information to relocate business to 416 Plymouth Street. Also discussion of 416 Plymouth Street Park Plaza for the site plan review status. We have no bills. We do have meeting minutes to approve from October 6th, as well as other correspondence from other towns and other departments. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as read?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At this time, would anyone like to open for a public hearing?
Notice of public hearing. The Halifax Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Board of Selectmen's meeting room at Halifax Town Hall, 499 Plymouth Street, Halifax, Massachusetts, 02338, on the application by Scott P. Burgess, trustee of 8 Hilda Lane Realty Trust for a proposed modification to definitive subdivision Hilda Lane to allow 2 new building lots to be located at 6 and 8 Hilda Lane in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81, and the Town of Halifax Subdivision Control Bylaw, Chapter 235. Subdivision of land. 6 Hilda Lane, located on Assessors Map 120, Lot 7T, is owned by Marie Jackson, trustee of Ask Realty Trust, Book 35530, page 0344 in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. 8 Hilda Lane, located on Assessors Map 120, Lot 1T, is owned by Scott P. Burgess, trustee of 8 Hilda Lane Realty Trust, Book 51353, page 177 in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. The applicant is seeking to modify, amend the subdivision to allow 2 new building lots and reduce the length of Hilda Lane from 897.91 feet to 482.27 feet, along with the request of several waivers in accordance with the Town of Halifax Subdivision Control Bylaws, Chapter 235, Subdivision of Land. The site is zoned residential. File number 22-sub-226.
Make a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, aye, sorry.
All right, we've got to speak on the applicant.
Joe Webby, Webby Engineering. With me is Scott and Diane Burgess from 8 Hilda Lane Realty Trust, and also Paul Jackson from ASK Realty Trust. And this Hilda Lane, just a little bit of history, was approved by the planning board in 2005, and at that time there was some different proposals that went along with it, but at the time that was approved for 5 new buildable lots, and with a road that's approximately 800 feet in length from Haywood Street. What the Burgesses would like to do is they would like to reduce the amount of road that they would have to build down to approximately just about almost 500, but it's less than 500. And then reduce the number of lots from 5 to 2. The Ask Realty Trust lot is still that one there, so it's really Scott's reducing his down from 4 to 1. And so what we've tried to do is a modification where we hope that we can reduce the amount of pavement. We're trying to reduce it. The original subdivision that required, I think, 28 feet of pavement, and we'd like to ask, one of the waivers we'd like to ask for is to reduce that pavement down to 22 feet. And then also further, we're trying to put the drainage, the sheet drainage, just like the original subdivision had it, with the drainage basin in the same area. It's just a little smaller now because the pavement is smaller. But basically, that's what we'd like to do. There's a couple of other waivers we'd like to ask for. One is not to be able to put in any type of granite curb or concrete curb, which was approved, because we want all this to be a country drainage that sheets down to the north so that it all goes down in this direction. And one of the other waivers we're asking for is not to put in a sidewalk. So currently there are 2 houses on Hilda Lane, and then there's also a house, the Bradford House, on the corner of Hilda and Haywood. So there would be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses when Hilda Lane is completed, but only 2 additional houses. So I think that unless Scott's got something else to say,
No, you did a great job.
it's basically what we'd like to try to do.
Okay. So in the proposal, there's no change to what would be lot 1T and 7T as far as redistribution of those lines? Those remain the same?
Except for there is a slight, what we had to do in order to get the frontage, so Hilda Lane came in straight. So there is a little piece of the Burgess property that would have to be conveyed to the Ask Realty to get this little piece of frontage.
Okay.
But other than that, yes, the sidelines of Hilda Lane are the same.
Based off the reconfiguration of the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, either that or we would literally have to take this road and bring it up to the Ask Realty line, and that's just more money. So we basically tried to squeeze it as much as we could, just to get the frontage that we needed.
And I assume the purpose of this is to help you get the single house in the back?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, his lot would be, their lot would be a little over 22 acres.
Okay, so the drainage easement would remain on his part? Okay.
His property, that's correct, which is where it was in the 05.
Okay. And looking over some of the comments we've got from the other boards and departments, building department seems satisfied. The fire department was concerned about a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac. I thought I had seen something about the water lines and a possible waiver on that.
Yeah, we had asked for it, we were gonna ask for a, so that currently, this lot is on a well, this lot, and then water line, the water service has come in since 2005. The town put the water main in. There's a hydrant right across the street from the Bradford house, the Bradford property. But we're asking not to put a water line. One of the other things we're asking for is currently, this house is serviced by overhead wires, and we would want to just continue the overhead wire. I think it's only 1 or 2 more poles in the
Right.
middle of
That's correct.
this house.
It's outside of what we're doing, but just, if you ran it off a well, and then do you do fire suppression as far as that goes inside the house?
No,
Okay.
because we're under the 500 feet, we're 482. We don't require that, a fire hydrant. Is the way we did the town bylaws. I spoke to the fire chief this morning on that. I guess he spoke to somebody on the planner board about that already.
Also, on the new design, the radius on the new proposed cul-de-sac, has that changed? Has that gotten smaller?
Well, with the size of the cul-de-sac, you can just check ahead, the outer perimeter of the cul-de-sac is the same, which you're required 70 feet. What we have done is shrunk down the pavement size. And that is still big enough to get a fire truck to go around it. That radius, we can do some maneuvering sketch for you. That's pretty.
Yeah, just to say, I believe it's like an R4, yeah.
But we can easily do
Okay.
that. But yeah, we literally we're trying to shrink down the pavement to shrink down the acreage.
Okay. Any other questions that you signed from the board?
Not at this time.
I'd like to open it up. Any comments from anyone?
I have a question.
If you wouldn't mind just saying your name and address.
My name is
please.
Hani Nasrallah. Joe, I have a question for you. So under the old plan, there was a retention pond, and that was in relation to my house. Was next to my house, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, this one is gonna be a little smaller, but it's still next to your house.
Okay.
Yeah, That's the
So-
whole point of the problem.
Okay. So I spent $8,000 to get the water out of my cellar, okay? So what's that going to do to my house now?
It's not gonna affect it at all.
How?
Because that's where the water is going now. In other words, there's a big hole right in this area that collects the water now.
So when that water is retained, just explain to me a little bit, where does the water go? I was gonna take its
It goes into
course.
the ground. It percolates, this is all good sands out here that percolates into the ground. So we've designed a basin that takes care of a 100-year storm event that ultimately will just percolate into the ground within 72 hours. That's what we have to design for. I kind of think that our calculations are probably gonna get checked by the board's engineers. So they're gonna go over everything we've done as a peer review. But basically, it's gonna be the same. We're not gonna change anything other than put the pavement down. I don't think you're getting any water now. Yeah, so everything's gonna just keep on going past your house to where we dug it out back in the, whenever it was, there's a big basin there now, big hole.
Okay, so for argument's sake, so if this has happened and now I got back water in my cellar, who is responsible? Me?
Well,
But let's say,
I'm not
okay,
an
the plan
attorney,
goes
so I don't
through.
know who's responsible.
Okay, but then I'll get water in my cellar. So that was,
That you already told us you get water in your cellar now.
I did,
Okay.
I fixed it. I have
Well,
a
okay,
fresh
how did
drain.
you, may I ask how she fixed it? I mean,
A
usually
French,
when you
French
get.
drain. I had company come in
Yeah.
and they took care of, they put a French drain and the water is out of my cellar. I haven't seen
So
one.
I do believe that you would have the advantages, they have to now look at the street as a whole, where right now I know it's dirt or gravel. When they start paving it, they're gonna actually be looking at how that water starts all the way from Haywood Street to the end. And so all of that, they'll do all of the work to make sure it collects all of the water, so it will go right past your house now, which should be an advantage to what is there.
Hi, Mark Bradford, 131 Hayward Street. Is this gonna have any effect on the Palmer Mill stream that's in the back there? That goes under Hayward Street?
So what,
There's
I'd
a-
have to look at the new proposal, but I think that realistically, the brook is so far into the wetlands that there would be no work within a few hundred feet of it. So if you can see about where it was, where it says the lot 17 and the 22 acres, that's about the proposal, maybe a little further down the sheet than that. So the work would be more to the left after the drainage basin, as far as for the building.
Okay. Now, if the road's gonna be smaller, why couldn't we go with the stone granite sidewalk rather than the road tar? And why couldn't we have a sidewalk?
I'm actually of the same belief as you. If we are doing all of those reductions to the road, it would be far more feasible at this point to do the things that were already agreed upon.
Exactly.
As far as the difference between the two, it's mostly expense, and I do understand that, but that is something that we're gonna consider.
And then the Hayward Street is in rough shape, the road itself, and the trucks and the equipment and stuff going up and down that should be addressed.
As far as impact on the road now.
Yeah, can it handle it?
Yeah. I don't know of any restrictions on that. I don't know if there is anything as far as on that crossing. But with access to South Street, I don't see,
South Street's good, but Hayward's very limited. And the other question is, why couldn't there be a fire hydrant? I don't, there's some on Hayward Street, wouldn't they?
all right, so that's something else that we're gonna consider, where he's looking to have each of there's only 2 houses that are gonna be proposed, like, in this new, proposal. And they're looking to have each of them just, fed by private well. So where they're, at that point, they would have no reason to bring any fire or any water down that road. So as of right now, they're not proposing any.
Yeah, I just
sort-
thought, at this day and age, it'd be part of the subdivision to have it, it'd just be more safe.
I see where you're getting at, but especially where this is 2 homes, I can see the reason where it's a lot more efficient to just have 2 smaller supplies in this.
Yeah, but it's one line.
So
They could tee off. of
I
it.
also, I forget the distance, but sometimes they have to loop it. I don't actually know what the length of a spur that they can have. I can look into that, but I know that there is a maximum amount that you can have any sort of like dead end to a spur where you're not actually creating a loop.
Okay, great.
And to that point, fire chief wrote, I want to make sure that there will be a fire hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac installed to Halifax Water Department specifications. So that was directly from the fire chief. So that's obviously something that
Great,
we weigh heavily before moving forward.
thank you.
And just want to take a moment to look over all the waivers and just to make sure that they're addressed.
Well, the other one was the piping underground not being, concrete. They wanted to use, I forget the material,
HDP or something.
HDPE, which is, heavy-duty, high-density polyethylene pipe instead of concrete piping. What would be the reasoning of that?
It's a better pipe, that's what the industry uses now. It's just what everybody uses, it's just an improvement that your regulations haven't caught up to.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do have a lot of our details are taken from older things.
That's what's out on Hayward Street now, is high-density poly.
It's common, it's what anyone would put in
Is there plans to go beyond the end of this
I'm
cul-de-sac?
sorry, if you wouldn't just mind,
Okay.
just say, just throw out your name and address, please.
Okay,
And then
I'm
you're
Skip,
free to
I
go.
live at the corner of South Street and Haywood Street.
Thank you.
Sorry I didn't mow the lawn recently. The rain is just, anyways, but yeah, so you talk about fire hydrants and whether you're gonna bring water down. If there's something in the mix for the other 22 acres later on, probably would make sense now to run the water than to cut pavement later and run water.
Scott can address that, but this is our proposal, just to have a 22-acre lot. I don't know.
Right,
And realistically, we have looked at the parcel before, and they've tried different configurations. I do believe that he's trying to just get one prime lot, and also by the time he actually cuts that up the way he's gonna do it, with the wetlands that are out there, it's difficult for me to foresee something afterwards, especially where he's gonna limit the amount of road, which is limiting his frontage. It's a good concern, but I don't see that in the future. From my perspective.
That butts up against the power line, so there's no way he can expand to the northwest without literally building a road, kind of like what was already approved. If he wanted to do that, he would have already used the approved plans, and just my thinking,
Exactly. If it was feasible, it'd be already done,
yeah.
but it was just not feasible to do that. By the time you pay the $40,000 just to hook into the water, another $50,000 to bring it up the road with the hydrant, you're in 90 grand. Plus the cost of the land, the pavement, granite curbing, which you can't even get now, you have to order out, it's a year and a half out. On and on. It just makes it not feasible to do it. So, without the exceptions, it just can't do the project. We'll just have to go another avenue, that's all. And as for the fire department, as long as it's not more than 500 feet, you don't need the fire hydrant. It's 482 feet of pavement, which I spoke to him this morning, and he was actually gonna address a letter to you guys, so I don't know if it actually got done or not, or he was just
I can,
preoccupied today, I'm sure.
yeah, I can let you know that the last thing we received is
Yeah.
on the 3rd of October, so.
That's when I went and I talked to him again this morning, and he said he was gonna draft a letter. He says, as long as it meets spec, the town spec, which is the 500 feet. And when we're at 490, 482, we're good.
Don't you think we have to have stormwater management as well, since they wouldn't have had that in 08, right? Because now we're changing, we're gonna add tar, we're gonna add drainage, we're gonna be digging up. So we require that now, so in a modification, sort of like opening up the walls of a house, you have to meet current code.
Any questions or comments?
No, I mean, I just think that obviously there's specifications put in place for a reason, right? So it's due to supply chain issues, obviously that makes it difficult to get supplies, but at the same time, does that mean that we have to start going down the list of requirements for specific exceptions just because of supply chain issues? I don't know. Because then once we offer the exceptions on this, it's the next project, and then you set a precedent. And although I don't want to be the bad guy with a room full of my community members, it's also, if we do it here, we have to do it for everybody.
I don't really believe in that.
It's the way it is.
Because we,
It's the way it is,
Because
it sets
when we-
precedent.
no, so what we always do is we give good reason to why each, we have to look at all of these things individually. They're all unique. I've seen a lot of pieces of land and none of them are the same.
No, I
We have to look at them all like that. And when we can prove or show that one is clearly not the same as the other, that's, you know, a lot of it is just our
I
verbiage
agree.
in our acceptance, where we can prove that this is a unique situation. That's why we have to be flexible. We have to be open to those changes, because there's no way that we can predict all of the things that we will see in the future. It's just, land just doesn't work like that.
I agree. We also have to do our due diligence to hold every single situation up against our bylaws,
Oh.
right? And so the fact that you can't get granite curbing for a year and a half shouldn't mean that we should waive it just because it's inconvenient. If the
Yeah,
fire
that's supporting
chief,
that.
if the fire chief, what I have in writing as of today, if tomorrow I have something different in writing, but as of right now, the fire chief is asking for that. I tend to lean on his expertise a lot better than my thought on how far away something should be without a fire hydrant. So that's where I land right now. I mean, I don't think we're making a decision whether to move forward tonight one way or another, are we not? Because this still has to go through peer review and we have to
Yeah,
hold up specific specifications, so it's not a yes or no vote tonight, it's more of just gathering more information for everybody, I would
Yeah.
think. But, we certainly don't want you to have to go down another road, but we also can't, you know, take 5 things and just say, well, they're inconvenient, so.
Sure. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How can 2 houses get built on a dirt road for, how many years is that house been there?
Well, that,
They've been living on a dirt road.
it was in the
No one made them put in pavement, granite curbing, water line.
Yeah,
I
there were a
come
lot
along
of things, there were a lot of things
now.
done in the 90s that weren't very efficient. So that's why as we get better, we adjust and adapt and put new bylaws in for that purpose. So,
Yeah.
because otherwise the definition of insanity, right? We don't want to keep doing that over and over again. Then we're just gonna have a bunch of dirt road cul-de-sacs because it's the cheapest way to do it.
We have Palmer Mill
I
Road
think we
too.
always have to keep in mind that we're still looking to improve the town, and
Right.
that's.
Yep.
So, you know.
That's why I'm not
look
against
at
these
this,
exceptions.
Is this,
I'm
is
not
this an
against them.
improvement, and is, yeah.
I just think that we have to look into it a little bit more.
Certainly, I do believe,
Drainage calculations included and how it's gonna affect, and then the wear and tear of Hayward, because I avoid Hayward altogether just so that I don't have to get my truck realigned every time I drive down the street. So I can imagine that having to come into play, so I just think there's a lot more of digging that has to be done, no pun intended, before we start checking off the exceptions, personally. And respectfully,
I
of
agree.
course. So I would refer back to you, what would be the next step be for that?
as of right now, I'd like to see this go to review.
And stormwater management should be done.
And stormwater management.
Specifically because our abutter has questions on whether or not her cellar might get water, and if we don't do anything about that, then I believe that we're not doing that job for the townspeople.
Do you have to read the letter that was submitted by the abutter?
I will.
I'm not saying you have.
No, I
I'm
think
just
it would
asking
be
if you have to, because obviously she submitted it in writing.
I would definitely do so. I also think that we should read into record exactly what the fire chief did state about the hydrant. And I just scanned 235 and cannot see that this doesn't require, that a hydrant isn't required on a street because it's less than a certain length. I don't see that in here at all. I do see that we need it. I don't see that it shouldn't happen or it doesn't have to happen under a certain length. If somebody can see that and point it out to me, but I don't see it in our bylaws.
So it does seem in that letter that installed to Halifax Water Department specifications, we can certainly reach out to them. I don't know if they have different information.
but we still have to go on subdivision control, like.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I'm just
so
saying, we can always check with them, because that's really, that's his whole point too, is to make sure that it is installed to the water specifications. We wanna make sure we're on the same page as them.
Absolutely, but then also the stricter of the law, if subdivision control 235 doesn't have a minimum length of road, then we don't have any way of, it could be waived if we all agreed and all of the residents weren't opposed to it. But at this time, I would say that we don't have that in a shorter length in our bylaws. Okay? So, from the building inspector, it said that I reviewed the subdivision modification request for Hilda's Way. This department has no issues with the plans as submitted at this time. From the Halifax Fire Department, I have reviewed the subdivision modification plan request for 6 and 8 Hilda Lane. I want to make sure that there will be a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac installed to Halifax Water Department specifications. The roadway must meet the Massachusetts CMR 1 code requirements for emergency vehicle turning radius, which is the other thing that I was going to ask about is what is the diameter of the cul-de-sac that's being proposed?
Well, I think you're asking two different things. Right now, the diameter of the cul-de-sac, the outside, is 70, which is your regulation. The actual pavement, that diameter is gonna be, it's 85 feet.
85.
85.
Okay.
The diameter of the outside edge of the layout is 140. 70 and 70.
And only 70 feet is paved. The rest is dirt.
Yeah, this will
Or
all
gravel.
be, this will all be left probably landscaped of some sort. Yeah, so the pavement would just be right in this area. And then this meets your regulations, the width of the road. We have a 50-foot wide road with your regulations.
In their peer review, diagnose
He's gonna go.
to make sure that a fire truck can get around there. Yeah, that's not gonna be a problem.
And then, do you still have an account, a revolving account set up with us?
I have no idea.
Okay, so Joanne will check on that. So, would the motion be to move it towards peer review? Are we gonna use Armory? Are we gonna use somebody else? And, stormwater management? You think that would be the full motion, or?
Fun being the chair.
Yeah, always is. Yeah, I would entertain a motion. Certainly.
I'll make a motion to take this file number 22 sub 226, sorry, to peer review with Amory Engineering, make sure the revolving account is set up, and request and require stormwater management to be done on the subdivision.
Have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
so. That'll be good. Peer review, will come back and tell us.
All right,
Do
so
I
as
need-
far as our timing goes, I just want to make sure, so we have,
I'll put them on the next meeting.
okay.
Thank you.
That's
And-
the third, right?
Yes.
November 3rd.
And you're up
We
the
have
10th.
November 4th, everybody to
Yep,
comment.
yep. And
A
then
little premature for that one.
maybe we need to ask you for an extension.
Was it the, no, 26th?
17th.
Yeah, 17th,
Would
what
be
a
fine.
day.
Can we have an
Okay.
extension?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we draw up that tonight so we can sign it?
So we have, I think, until the 19th
Oh,
to
okay.
act.
I'm taking the 10th.
The
That
other
was the
one.
other one.
Yeah, we got two of them.
See, we went over that. All right, we're a little premature on
Should
that.
be at the-
Thank you.
Actually, we got that complicated motion and then switch back to
So you don't want to see us on the 3rd, you want to see us,
The third, I think, is a waste.
right, so the 17th?
Because it's gonna take Pat a good week just to look at this. I mean, he's gotta get it on his schedule, so,
Right.
2 weeks is not gonna make it.
Okay, so 17th, we can continue it to?
Yeah.
All right, just give us a minute. We're gonna put it right at 17th.
I know. Might as well open it first.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing for Hilda Lane definitive subdivision, Hilda Lane, to November 17th in the year 2022 at 7 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thought we were done with that, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Happy Halloween.
Oh,
Any other sheets?
Excited.
Thank you. See you soon.
I will need a motion to return to the regular schedule.
A motion to return to the regular scheduled meeting.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm just kidding. That's it. You're good. That problem.
Okay.
All right. So for ADGA Realty.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
How are you?
Nope.
I can't say that.
Right.
All right, ADGA?
Yes, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Emil Taya for ADPA Realty. We have Jim from Outback Engineering, as well as Don Nagel, our counsel. We're presenting our project for 0 and 592 Plymouth Street in Halifax, Mass. Currently, we have two different set of plans, and then we could go on with our presentation. We have a simple rendering, and then as well, we have our engineering plans that show the two parcels we're talking about.
Okay.
And then we also have various other plans that will show the orientation of the site, and then we can go from there to questions. I'm going to pass the baton to Jim for him to explain the project and walk us through it. And any questions at the end, I'm here to help answer.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, good evening. Again, Jim Pavlich from Outback Engineering for the record. And we're here for a site plan approval for a commercial building on what's known as 0 Plymouth Street. It's at the intersection, or near the intersection of Carver Street here. This is Plymouth here, and this lot here is comprises 0 Plymouth Street. It's currently a vacant lot. There's a gravel parking area up near the front. There's some bordered and vegetated wetlands at the back of the site. And we're also utilizing a portion of this is 592 Plymouth Street, which contains an existing house and a barn. So this is an all upland site. And what we're proposing is to a site layout. So this is now a 40 scale plan. Sorry. Can everybody see this okay? I don't want to be blocking it.
Okay, thank you.
So again, this is the site known as 0 Plymouth Street. 592 is over here. And we're proposing a 4,950 square foot building, 2 stories. Again, it's depicted in these renderings here, colonial style building. We're in the business commercial district and the town's historic district. So prior to this meeting, we met informally with the Historic District Commission to review the building plans. And Mr. Shea is here from the committee. Might hear from him later, but I think it was a positive meeting. So the building was generally colonial style with shingle siding, and trying to fit into the character of the historic district. And so what we're proposing is a 15-car parking lot out front. This would be a paved parking lot. And 14 of the parking spaces would be on a, what we're calling a grasscrete parking lot. It's basically a permeable surface. And it would retain its lawn-looking characteristics. This is all an existing lawn area back here. This is within 300 feet of the site, which is allowed per the zoning bylaw. And we have some underground drainage systems at the front of the site here, an open infiltration basin to capture the parking lot runoff here. We're proposing an on-site septic system for the building that would be located here. And that's basically in a nutshell what we're doing right now. So I could open it up to any questions and get into more details or whatever specifics you'd like to talk about.
Just a few that pop up real quick. So the proposed building, which is now 0 Plymouth Street, what is the proposed use of that building?
This building?
Yes.
To be built. It's a combination office and retail space. So the thought is the first floor would be retail and the second floor office.
If I may add,
Sure.
we're in the cranberry industry, so it would be our main office. Right now, we're down the street at 313 Plymouth Street. And a very similar building. We have just our staff and myself who would be utilizing the space. We have cranberry bogs all around town and various other towns as well. This would be a overlapping center point for all of our business. We also operate a farm close by as well, and all the farms that we have, we need a administration, quote-unquote, office So our intent is to have a building built very similar to the historical building and buildings in town. And from our understanding, with the guidance of the Historical Commission, once we get to that building phase, we would be utilizing their expertise and background to help us with tweaking the visual aspect of the building. Currently, how the geography of the parcel's laid out, orientating the building the way it is now allows for it to be set back a little further than the other current homes that are already on the street. It allows us to keep enough distance from the existing home without touching any portion of the home, and utilizing the vegetation that's around the parcel, where driving by the property, you would see another home, another building, another historical building in design, and you wouldn't feel it a metal structure. You wouldn't feel it glass everywhere. It would, you know, add to the value of the town as well. The other notes that we can add in as well is currently now it's just an open gravel pad that 18-wheelers, buses, and random traffic use. Our intent is to create one entrance and one exit with the additional parking on the side. And we would be closing off the majority of the frontage to allow only one entrance and having it more organized. A lot more aesthetically pleasing. From the renderings, hopefully everyone can see as well. It's more appealing than just seeing dumpsters or 18-wheelers parked there.
So the building at, what is 592?
Yes.
And that will remain, barn will remain?
Yes,
No.
our intent was never to touch the barn or the house. Our intent is to utilize the additional space that it has. As well, the property will be having its time to get a septic upgraded as well. So we would be keeping everything separate. So the only use of 592 would be the parking, additional parking. Now, we're doing the additional parking just because of the size of the building. It requires a certain amount of spaces. For our office use, we would most likely only use a few spots.
That was a question I was gonna have. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the parking on the 592 parcel, realistically, you don't see much use based off your amount of
Correct.
employees, but
So
due
our-
to the
our
square
model
footage of
is-
the building.
Exactly, so our model would be if the business ever grew and we outgrew the business, we're gonna be moving to a bigger unit, then it's still built for what the code is today. As well as Jim pointed out, the type of material we would be using wouldn't be asphalt on this one. It would be as simple as we can make it.
Now, the calculations that you use is strictly off of the square footage of the proposed building at 0, correct?
Correct.
So if there was any change in use of building in 592, that square footage is not built into parking?
592 is the house, so.
Yeah, so my point being is if someone else was to purchase 592, do they have ample parking to change that from, I believe that's gonna
Yes,
be a
so
mixed
that's
use
a valid
area.
question, yeah.
Just for, for the future, what someone could do.
Currently, the property has a driveway and it has several spots, available for the house itself. That would be a legal question that I would have to ask council on how we would word a trust or an easement rather, perpetual parking easement for any future use of 592. The driveway or parking lot would have to be either redesigned or
Yeah, that's why I wanted to confirm that parking is only for
that
the
building.
square footage of the, okay.
Because if they needed additional, then it would be a different calculation.
Oh,
And they do have upland, and they do have additional space. We just didn't want to utilize every square inch.
yeah, I understand that. That would have very minimal impact
Yes.
on that particular parcel. I just wanted to make sure that we were looking at it,
Yep,
in
and our
case it
intent
got
here is,
changed.
we're not changing any use for 592 at all.
Okay, excellent.
Any further questions or additional?
How many retail spots are you looking to put in?
At the current moment, we're looking for ourselves. So the assumption we could say two for upstairs and downstairs. So it would be us for the first floor, and then the second floor would be either additional archiving for files and or a tenant. It depends on the design of the building.
What kind of a tenant?
I don't know right now.
Residential, office,
I believe
shopping?
the
It wouldn't be an apartment, is what I'm getting at.
no,
It'd be
no,
a
we would,
commercial.
it would be a commercial use business. So it would be, an accountant, a dentist. I haven't gotten that far. We got to the design phase only for the historical portion. And then my understanding was, once we get this footprint squared away, we go back to the architect and get the layout of the inside
Inside.
squared away.
Yeah, 'cause the parking goes along with what the uses are inside.
Oh, yes, yes.
So it's very important for this to know exactly what's gonna happen inside the building.
Correct. So Jim, I think we designed it only for business, so commercial.
Combination retail and
Yep.
office.
Yeah, so as you chop it up, no matter how many divisions inside, you have the
Yes.
proper square
And
footage.
then I believe the same for the septic design. They designed it for the volume of the size.
Okay.
How many people do you have employed in your Cranberry office?
Currently, maybe 4.
And what about your farm administration?
That's not on this location, but I don't think that's relevant. I don't have the exact
Oh.
amount of people that.
It was my understanding that you were gonna have that here. You said that you were gonna have a Cranberry business and your farm
Correct.
business
Our
administration.
administration office. So it would be our secretaries and our dispatch would be personnel. So currently we only have about 4 people.
So 4 for each.
Yes.
My question would be, and it's not specifically directed at you because I don't believe it's something that you or your council can answer. We had a conversation a month ago on this. I understand that obviously we misunderstood the regulation of when it's not passed, then it starts a 2-year window. That's not for the site plan that's only for a special permit. Okay, so that's an answer for some of you guys, which I'm sure was on the tip of your tongue, right? Because it was on the tip of mine. Obviously, the last time we spoke, there wasn't a representative there. There was a lot of people in the gallery that were voicing their opinions for not wanting any business specifically to go there. So we made our decision to vote a majority on a no on the previous recommendation. And a part of that, or a big piece of that, at least for me, leaned on the historical committee saying that they didn't agree with it and thought it didn't fit the character of the town. So my question would be, what changed? Which is why I don't think it's to you.
Yes, yes.
Because when I'm holding a piece of paper, that's why we have elected officials and appointed officials in town, so that we can lean on them for their guidance, right? And they say, we don't think it fits. Well, that's my first baseline. And then we vote no, a new application gets submitted after we vote no, and now all of a sudden the historical committee approves it. So that's my,
I think
where am I?
Yes.
What am I missing?
So let me support that. I believe the misconception was that everybody assumed we were touching 592.
Okay.
The original design hasn't changed. We were never going to touch the building. Our intent was only to build a new construction. Not to demo the building, leave the building, and only start a new project on 0 Street. What changed was, after discussing with Mr. Shea, as well as the Historical Commission, they requested that we have a rendering made.
Okay.
Went to an architect, had the rendering made. It's just difficult to know what to design if we don't get what outline we want, because then it'll keep changing. So Halifax just doesn't have what to do in order. So I went to Mr. Shea, we had discussions, he said, get a rendering, we made the rendering, we had our meeting, they had their comments, we went back and forth, and then the understanding is once we get to building permit, I believe, then we have to be in building permit hand in parallel with the Historical Society, so that we build it to the historical boundaries.
Okay.
And then hopefully, if Mr. Shea has any additional words to add.
Yeah, for the comment. When I came to that meeting and these gentlemen didn't show up,
Yep.
I had previously sent a letter stating that it has to fall in the guidelines of the historical commission. At that point, we had no idea if the red building and the barn was gonna be part of it. We had no idea what the buildings were gonna look like. We had no idea who we were dealing with.
Because they were under
We could have been
assumption.
dealing with somebody who wanted to put a metal building in or whatever. We had no idea. So with the people not showing up, you know, we couldn't do anything.
Certainly didn't have enough information to go forward.
Yeah,
So when-
that's why we correct.
When that meeting ended, and they received the notice from you people stating that they couldn't do anything, they reached out to me telephone wise and said, we would like to meet with you and discuss it with you, and anything that you would like to do and improve it, we'll be more than willing to work with you.
Excellent.
And from there, I talked to all these gentlemen over the time, then we finally had a meeting, and that's when I saw these things for the first time. Well, actually, I saw this before, because I went to the planning board, and they showed me this portion here, the plans. Yeah, that plan there.
This was the new.
And then they came with a meeting with this building, but now I already knew what the groundwork was gonna look like.
Right. Okay.
Or our committee did. So then we worked with this gentleman right here, and we had a consensus that would fit into, that building would fit into historical aspects. And that, if you look at it, it almost looks like the barn on the other side of the house.
Right.
Only a little bit bigger, even with a window above the door, the windows across, yeah, everything, so.
And then the small architectural details add the value.
I mean,
to
it looks like it's all, you know, wide open, there's no trees on it or anything else, but that's gonna
Yeah.
have to be different.
That's an important piece of the story
Right.
to fill in there.
Yeah,
So I appreciate that. That's why I was asking, what did we miss?
You know, I also
Right.
talked with them about signage and stuff like that, not anything to do with us, but, you know, we would have the final say on it, but, and also like to have the trees, you know, the house next to it on the west side, make sure that that's not exposed, that type of thing, and they were more than willing to discuss that and work with us, so.
Thank you.
Before we open it up, just making sure if anybody else had any. That was my big thing. I just needed to connect the dots. That's what I was missing was we made a pretty strong stance on that the last time when we voted, right? And so if we're going to be discussing the same exact topic, just because of it's not a loophole, but the guidelines of the bylaws, and it's the same exact topic for the same exact property, then we need to make sure that something drastic had to have changed to change our opinion as a board, or individually. I'm only one vote, but that's very important to the facts, I think, or the end conclusion of whatever it becomes.
Yeah, realistically, this was the best case scenario because we didn't want to have to decline it without the most amount of
No.
information, without the back and forth. And this
And
is
we want
where
to
we
make sure
should
we
be.
satisfy
We should be
everyone
having this.
and have even our neighbors, they're gonna be here with us. We're a very small town, we're a big family, so we want to make sure it satisfies both the town and law, the neighbors, and, you know, help bring business to the town. It's a beautiful thing.
Before we open it up, this is something that I want.
me to talk.
No, I do. No, I'm really excited actually. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to go. Because usually it's not directed at me, so it's good.
Yeah, thanks.
All I would say, yeah. Aim everything at him. No. So, in my time on this board, we've had some passionate conversations. The whole role of this is that everybody directs them at us so that we can then mediate the conversation. Please don't direct it at each other. That's all I would ask. Okay?
Amen.
So, eyes here. That's what we got.
Can I see the setbacks on?
You're not going to let her talk either?
Yes.
I do want you to. trying to fend off the parking lot fights before they start.
Yeah, you don't need any more of those.
I need clarification on that. I think you own the red house, correct? Oh, sorry,
have to go
does
that
he
way.
own the red house?
See how easy it is? That's why I have to remind you. Yeah. So, do you want to open it up to the?
Yeah, if you have
Sorry,
a,
Mary Gravity's 98 Clyde Bosworth. My
you.
first question, I have a few. Why was no one present at that first meeting when we were all there?
okay, I don't want to speak for them, but I'm kind of going to, is they had a miscommunication in their office. And I believe that's really what it came down to. They had someone who was a manager that was no longer involved, and it was as simple as that. If anyone wants to go further into it, but I think I hit it.
I can add in, and Jim will add in as well. It's just a combination of the dominoes that were bad luck for me. I had a medical circumstance. Jim, my engineering firm, they had a circumstance on in-house, and
It was unintentional. Yeah, I take full responsibility, but yeah, we had someone that was supposed to cover, and
we moved mountains.
Signals got mixed.
Everyone was here today for the whole team to be able to discuss and answer all questions, everyone.
Okay, number two, what are we gonna do about the traffic? Because I've timed myself for the past week, getting out of Clyde Bosworth onto 106.
So, all
5
right.
to 7 minutes with, like in the middle of the day.
I
It's
feel you.
insane.
I'm on the other side, so when I come up Carver Street, I
Yeah,
understand.
you're right,
So I do
Deadly
think
corner.
it's tough.
yes.
One of the things that I do like about this proposal, as far as is right now, it seems like the amount of traffic is limited, especially with the type of business that he's proposing for right now. Obviously, if there is some sort of high demand retail, like that would be more, but right now for what's proposing, it sounds most likely you'll have a few cars in the morning, maybe they leave at lunch and at the end of the day.
And I may
If
add
that,
as well, we're controlling now the traffic as well. So if we narrow down the amount of frontage and ability for vehicles to traverse onto the open gravel area and not have any signage, not have any curb cuts, not have any markings or bushes to keep them from driving any which way, it's dangerous. Once we're able to close off a large portion of it and narrow it down to an entrance and an exit, becomes more controlled, supports our traffic on our side.
But then we would potentially, most likely, definitely will have people cutting through there as opposed to going down Carter Street
They
to get
can't.
around
There's
that
no
way.
connection.
I see
thought
what
that
you're saying.
parking lot is absolutely
Okay.
connected.
Yeah, all right, so it's a walkway, I
It's a
do
walkway.
believe. I see what you're getting
Yeah,
at,
it's a
but
walkway.
just to clarify
It's a
that.
walkway?
People.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, though.
It's a.
Now, if you want to get out of the car and run,
Yeah.
by all means.
I don't mind walking.
That's really
People
weird though, that
walking.
you have a separate parking lot, like attached by a
So-
walkway to a retail, like.
So as far as that goes, realistically, that's because of where the uplands are.
Yeah.
So on the lot that they're proposing the building, there's really not enough square footage up front close to the road. So they're kind of borrowing that. And that's why I kind of liked the idea of doing what they propose for the parking. Instead of actually putting asphalt, which I think is disgusting, like they're actually putting something that should grow over. And if it's under limited use, then there may or may not even be like massive tire tracks and things like that. I think it's a good approach.
We like green, we're in farming, so.
It's a Wimbledon parking lot.
It's,
It's a grass
So,
court.
so my thought process is that you would be limited to your office space because if you sold 592, you would be lacking that space and you don't have anywhere to add parking on that space. So you would be limited to your office space.
We'd have to provide for an easement and perpetual use of that parking.
so it did sound like he was aware of that with deed restrictions or.
I think
I don't
think
know
the
if
big
we allow that in the bylaw.
I think the difference between the last meeting, at least for me, and again, for whatever it's worth, the difference between the last meeting and this meeting is it was my understanding, because we didn't know who we were meeting with or what was going in or what the design was or what the purpose of the building was. I had in my brain a storage facility or a retail space, like a mini mall almost, right? And
Well, it was gonna be a medical center or something, it was, I think it was different.
so at the end of the day, that's very.
Well, I think it was all rumors, though.
Yeah.
It probably didn't
But
take
in
long.
writing, we didn't have
Small
that.
town, they moved fast.
100%. So compared to what they're presenting today, this is a very different use, very different type of building. And it doesn't seem to be where it's going to be retail like some of the
Yeah.
other facilities we've recently approved where we had to do traffic studies and things of that nature. If this is employee only, that's going to be a big.
You still have to do traffic studies.
Yeah, same, on the same
And
line.
that's why we
Just a couple.
Hold on, yeah, we'll open up.
Dick Steele, Clyde, Richard Steele, Clyde. Okay. We're right across the street. I like the turning point as it is now, but, first, I want to just straighten out away. Who owns the building? Who owns the,
592.
592?
ADGA.
Who is that?
Oh, you own it?
I represent a property management company, and the collective owners are ADGA Realty, as well as, I believe, Malden Real Estate.
Isn't that
And they,
property on the market?
and they are the owner of both lots?
No, this is Malden.
Yep.
592 is Malden.
Yep.
The green, and this vacant lot is ADGA.
Okay.
So, they're two separate owners.
Yes.
If this gets sold, it can be sold at any time. And you got the parking lot, so they can't obviously take the parking lot when you sell that building. I go back to just a couple of things you said real quick. How many parking spots are in the building area?
15.
15, how many are in this one?
14.
Okay, so 15 are in this building, and it's kind of hazy about what's really going in the building. You kind of said it might be this, it might be that. You talked about the farming part of it, but, and Amy brought it up, and you really didn't get an answer out of it, or maybe she thought she got an answer, that how many people might be in this farming retail area. When I think retail, I think of, not to say anything, but like a Nazarella Farms with it's
Goods and
inside.
services. Selling
Inside,
of goods and services.
Yeah, so that's not gonna be people who are just working, those are people who are gonna be pulling in and out. So whether it's 15 here and 15 there, I just wanna understand that it's not, it sounds like it's all office space, but it really isn't. And it seems to me that it's, and I don't know how this works, I'll play stupid there, that I don't understand, it can, let's say you vote everything in, can it change? What if they said they're gonna sell the building? No, at some point they could sell the building,
It's
somebody
on the
else
market.
buys it, can they do whatever they want?
Right.
So
I
that's,
don't believe so. They
All right.
have to come back to the
So that was my concern too. When I was,
They asked.
no, I felt the same way. What happens in the future? That's why I was concerned about the parking, how each one, carried over for each building. I'm gonna have to take a good look at it because I can't think of any other time where we have had the parking off-site. I don't know that we have anything that restricts that. It might just be one of those things where,
It is allowed.
Yeah.
okay.
So at the end of the day, though, to Mr. Steele's point, is there a provision that we can put in upon the approval that if there was any other type of retail business that were to go in, they would have to come back before the planning board for
Okay.
approval?
So that's a big thing,
Uses.
which would be the change of use, right? So right now, if he's just asking for office space, which is really what he was saying, is originally it's gonna be office space and the retail would be in the future, he would have to come back, and there may be a chance that that does not provide that.
Just a point of clarification, we have
Yeah.
a parking calculation on, this is sheet 2. And the town's parking tables allow for office/retail use of the building, requiring 1 space per 175 square feet of floor area. So that's how we came up with 29 total spaces required.
Okay.
So whether it's
So-
office or retail, conceivably, we have enough parking to satisfy that
If I-
requirement.
Yeah, so it does change though, as far as certain retail things will have certain amount of employees. And if you have more employees per amount of square footage and things like
So
that.
if I may,
Can I ask one question
Yes,
before you
go
go?
ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
But to the residents'
Yes.
point, which I think I'm understanding.
Yep.
Right now, it's office space. let's say you don't even sell the building. Let's say you just change your idea and say, hey, we're going to open up a farm stand. Right? We've all driven by, very popular place. All my mom's there, right? Now all of a sudden you don't have 8 to 10 employees coming through that traffic. You now have people buzzing in and out like a beehive because you have retail of goods and services coming out of that location. I think that is, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the residents, but I don't think anybody has a problem with the design and all that of where it's going. It's what the usage is going to be and how that is going to negatively affect the abutters and the traffic flow. Because if you put, let's say we approve another marijuana retail facility, that place is going to be, you know, Jesus.
So
Oh, now you guys will all approve it. Got it. No, but at the end of the day, you see the difference between
Absolutely.
10 employees
So let me,
and administration.
I think an example would be, a good example would be, I said it to a couple of people, when you look at the insurance building down the street, and you look at the cabinet building down the street, it's offset, looks like a house, this is beautiful, all right, but it's, you know, that's where it is. And that's what goes on there. You don't see a ton of cars going in and out. And I think the big concern is like you said, and I know we have the same feeling, is you can't, because I live across the street, and the people who live in Clyde Bosworth are Stony Ware, and I'm telling you, these people in Carver, and you're on that street, in the morning and in late afternoon, this is brutal. It's worse than brutal. I don't hear anybody saying in the rest of the town, anywhere else in the town. And I know somebody mentioned to me, well, we'll put a light there. That makes it worse. I just want to make sure that doesn't come up. But that is a real major concern about people coming and going, because you're gonna have them, you'll have them stop, then you'll have 17 cars behind them stopping, and then we'll keep coming in and going. It's a lot, it's gotta be looked at, I think.
So I think that's where the usage of the building comes into
Right,
factor.
right, exactly.
Hold on, if I could,
Yes.
like,
I'm Karen Farrell, 15 Clydell. My question is, you said, not you, sorry. It's the cranberry owner, and they're gonna have a cranberry shop, retail, and another in the future. So that's two in there, right, in the bottom floor?
I think what he was saying that is that if as he grows or as the company grows, then they may need to expand into another building and another facility.
Right.
That was my understanding.
This particular facility.
If you outgrow
is
that
their
facility.
Cranberry owner and one other for now. So what's the one other for now, just another retail?
so, all
place?
right,
Farm
just to,
administration.
So
That's
I'm
what
gonna-
offices, But they mentioned two commercials.
all right, so part of the thing that as someone who's proposing a project, you always do have to leave a little thing open for the future, and I believe that's where a lot of the verbiage comes from. Is he doesn't want to dead end himself, wants to leave himself open. If that space becomes extremely valuable in some way, he may want to be able to use that. So I think that's why it's not so clear. Not that there's something strange, but you want to keep that open for the future. And
So for
if I-
today, we're proposing cranberry retail in the bottom and offices.
Correct.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yeah,
to
yeah.
elaborate on all the points, and hopefully I can remember them all, is with regards to traffic, we're not designing a gas station or a high-volume building. We have a gas station across the street which has two entrances that takes traffic coming in and going out after they fill their cars. We also have a gas station across the street on Carver at the corner that has the same, an entrance on one street, entrance on the other street. For an office building or retail, it has a reduced amount of time that when said employee or guest or anyone comes to visit, and hopefully you guys will come, they're gonna come in and the majority of time will be spent inside. It's not gonna be a 5-minute fill up and then they're out and adding traffic. The current traffic that there is currently, the 17 car lineup, the timing in the morning, timing in the afternoon, that's there today, that's gonna be there tomorrow. Our impact is the 14 cars and the 14 cars. And if we divide that over the 24 hours in the day and shrink it down to the 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon, those impacts are so minuscule, they won't add influx on our use. We're not looking to make a weed dispensary or a stop and shop or a use that's fast. We're looking for an office space, a place where we can put computers, put people, type away. If in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we sell the property, whoever the new owners are, their use will have to stick to office and retail. And if they wish to change that use to, say, a farm stand, or drastically change the footprint, or touch the building in any way, they have to go through the town again. I'm building this building. If a dentist wants to come and put a dentist shop, it's not adding or subtracting use. It's whatever the building's designed for, that's the calculation for the parking lot. Kind of similar to the town. Some days you have the town parties and then everyone, they shut off the street and you have thousands of people here. But then the rest of the year, you might get 1 or 2 customers the whole time in this whole building. For our use, right now, today, we can add up to 4 and 4, the 8 individuals who would be using the building. But I can't promise we're not gonna put the limit. So that would be a fire marshal, I think, question, like what's the limit of occupancy of the building? I think it would be 50 or 25 people, maybe a Christmas party, but then not every day we're gonna have that traffic. And funny you say about the insurance, we're in the back, we own 313, 311 is our insurance company. Our building right now is secluded away, and there's multiple owners segregating on that one parcel. So we share a parking lot similar to this circumstance with our building and the insurance company. And I think I touched on those 2 points, and then, I'm sorry, but as he had stated, I can't predict where the market goes in the future. I don't know what business we will be into. If growing, turns to garbage and they say, sugar cane is the next healthy fruit after cranberries, then we're gonna switch our business model. But right now, the market is where it is, and this is what we're designing today. If anything changes, the town has their specific boards that take over control of that. So as it's designed, I don't think I can put a supermarket or a nightclub, but our office use would be standard time, I think 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, and we're not gonna be using it in the evenings, and it would be whatever is used in the business district, which is supportive of the town.
So
Okay, hold on one second. I know you had the
Dave
hand up.
Rossini, 60 Run Road. Looking at the proposed entrance, actually it's right across from the curb cut for the gas station. So you have entrances and exits on that side and on the other side of the road. You might as well put an ambulance in that parking lot for the gas station. I'm not kidding.
Because that's Davis, right?
Yes, yes.
We have the ability to move this anywhere on our front.
They're right in front of us.
It just,
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
I live there.
Yeah.
I grew up in Quincy by
Yeah.
the Southeast Expressway. I know about traffic. And traffic has changed dramatically since I moved here in '94. And just the other day, I must have been waiting 10 minutes to pull out of that road. Friday nights, coming home in the summertime, the traffic, the accidents off of 105, Carver Street, trying to get up Carver Street to go across. I own a motorhome, I fill up at that gas station. God's with me pulling up that I don't get broadsided. Every single car added, whether it's a business or a home, just adds to the congestion. My other question is, how many trees are gonna get cut down for that parking lot in front there to go back? Are you cutting trees down, clearing back to make that lot bigger for the parking? Where the gravel is now?
Here or-
No, the front one up there on 106.
You just said, hon, are you asking the comparison between what exists
is
as the
there now?
turnoff?
Are you gonna be cutting trees
So-
down, going back towards that, quote, dry creek that's there, that's actually wetlands, because I've walked my dogs in there?
All right,
How far are you encroaching on that?
if you wouldn't mind, what is the distance, say, just using that front building setback?
Right here, or one of these?
Of the one on 0?
Here?
Yeah,
It's a 50-foot building setback, and we're
What is
about
proposed?
55 feet.
okay.
Required 50 feet, we're about 55.
So you gotta figure that from pavement right now, it's gotta be about 60 feet, I would say. Like you have the dirt, then you got a little bit of grass, and before that, tree lines, probably about 60 feet. So it seems like that fairly close to what's already cleared. Probably a little bit more, but obviously the building would be behind it.
Right, like if that was
But-
100, if that was
Lot more
100,
clear.
They're doing about runoff.
Can definitely be a lot more cleared.
Existing line, Jim.
Well, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? If the
So,
building,
If I may, his point.
Sure.
We actually have a line of the existing line already. So
Okay.
that's the actual existing.
That's the existing tree line in the gravel turnout area. So.
Okay,
we will
yeah,
be
so there you
clearing
get a
some trees,
visual.
Patch
For
of
the
trees
drainage.
right here and a patch of trees over here for the building, but
And then the
The ex-
runoff though from the parking lot, is that gonna be? where is
that will be into the
Off to the
drainage,
side.
yeah.
all into this space.
You have to do stormwater
I just-
management next to.
You don't
Yep.
live here, you don't have to deal with it every single day. I mean, when I moved here, I used to keep the keys in my ignition of my truck. Those days are gone, but the traffic is just reminds me of growing up a kid in Quincy, and that's not what I moved here for.
Yeah, I think we certainly have to keep focus on the change that this will have. Because, you know, we all agree that traffic's gotten significantly worse. But we really do have to really think about the impact that this will have and really just that.
and it is zoned commercially, to be fair. It is a commercial zone property.
So there is a,
The property at, is it 592, the red house with the red barn or whatever?
I believe so.
Does that always have to stay a home? Is that residential and can never be, does it have to stay a home?
as of right now, there are no restrictions on it.
There are not.
There are not.
Isn't it on the market to be sold right now, though? And it has been for a long period of time?
That I'm not sure of, but as far as any
I will
res-
open up that answer
Sure.
while it's on the table. So, as an owner, just as if you own your home as well, today you own it, tomorrow you can sell it. There's no one who's gonna stop you as an owner from doing that. But the change of use, there would have to always be a process or a machine that would take you from point A to point B. So if we wanted to change it from a home to an office, we'd have to go through the process. There would be building inspector involved, board of health involved.
Site plan review.
site
we
plan
would be
review
involved again with a change
Historical
of
committee
use.
would come back in.
Bingo.
I mean-
So as a manager for the current owner, the reason why you put it on the market or not on the market has manyfold. Simply put, you can put it on the market to sell, put it on the market to find an investor to build it for you, and you become leasee. It's a financial tool. It's not just only to be sold and come and get a project and go build it. It's more of a functional financial tool so that if you wish to develop a building, they have different strategies of developing that said building. All out of your own pocket, or you find an investor who's willing to purchase a product similar to a CVS or a Walgreens or a large building. Not your everyday contractor can foot that bill, or investor can foot that bill. What we're looking for is a very simple building. We're not looking for a Walgreens or a, what was it, they said,
Like a medic. No, and
I
I
don't
respect
know,
that, and I understand
you
that,
know.
and I'm not trying to talk to him, but I'm talking to
No,
him.
no, no.
My problem is, and I'm not being
We're not doing
disrespectful.
bricks or metal.
Like, most people don't go through this without having a big picture plan, and you're
Oh,
obviously a
yes.
very smart businessman and you know what you're doing. It seems like this may be like step one to maybe a bigger step something. I feel like this might not just be that little retail space. It
So,
might be further down the road, and we're gonna be stuck saying, crap, now we have this retail space that's got these parking, and the road's already a mess, and we can't get out of our street. And they own this and they sold it, and now we're gonna be stuck having to do something else with the red building.
so
Right.
with that circumstance, and hopefully the town can help out with that, is once a building's built, in 50 years, 100 years, things change. That's why we're here, to make sure once we build it, it's good forever. So how we designed it, we can't change that footprint. We can't add another third floor. We can't change what's there without coming back here. And we're maximizing it now for future thought. Meaning, we squared in every square inch we can get. And we're designing it for the most parking that we can get. We're being transparent about that. We're not gonna build another 50 parking spots. We don't have the space.
No, I
Nor
just-
can we go
yeah.
behind to the wetland, so that's where the line is.
Excuse me, I brought this up, I can't remember if it was the conservation or if it was here, that there was somebody in the town that knows a little bit about the history of when the mobile station was built and maybe something was going on with Davis, that there was an underground water source, and that was a problem when the building was going on across the street, which is very close to where you guys, across the street from the mobile station. When that was being built, there was some issues, there were issues about that. I can't be more
So,
specific.
I believe I personally tried to find something out in the back there. I wish I could remember. I think that we found, I don't believe we ever actually found any sort of culvert that went under the road.
No, he's
I
meaning
think
like a
what
source,
you might
not
be
a
talking
culvert.
about
No,
is-
but I'm saying that, but we thought that the water actually went under 106 because the way it collected,
What we found was
that
an
was-
easement, a drainage easement on that side, as well as a, like a culvert,
Head wall.
head wall,
Okay.
all the way on the corner side of the property, where we think it should be on the drainage easement itself, but
Yeah.
somehow it found its way on us.
that's actually probably exactly the
But
thing that
we're
I was looking.
assuming it's drainage from the street somewhere. But
Yeah, so
there's nothing on this side where we have the upland.
I got one more question, and I know other people that have to say something, I'm sure, but,
No, just me and you did.
well, my other problem is not, it's not with the board, and not necessarily with you people, but it's the, again, it's the not understanding when this comes about. And if I wasn't just kind of, because we had gone to that original meeting, and so you as a concerned citizen, you start looking at the planning board when they're meeting, and you look at the conservation and zoning, and so I'm looking at all those things, but I'm not doing it every day. I just happened to look last week and saw that something is going on with the property. And then I had asked myself, gee, should I be there, shouldn't I be there? Why, all of a sudden this is coming back? Are abutters going to be notified again, or is it already past that stage? There's just not a lot of, and I don't know what the answer is, because I understand that communication is such a problem in the town. I'm not a Facebook person, I'm a teacher. Stay away, all right? So I'm not any of that kind of stuff, but I just happened to see it, just by, or I wouldn't be here.
So realistically, we have things like the board out front, and I don't expect anyone realistically to come in every day and check that, or even once a week. I don't really know what the answer is, but I definitely know the problem that you're discussing.
Because there's a process, the newspaper and mailings.
And who is to say, we have a lot of meetings that are fairly dull, I will say, that are very
They don't put that in the
straightforward.
job description when you vote, when you sign up to run for an election, by the way.
So it's also difficult where, for us to say, oh, hey, next week's gonna be great, show on up, if you know what I mean.
Well,
I don't really know how the best way to get that out there, but I do.
Think of something.
Yeah, so
I have a sign out front with all those names.
Yeah.
106.
But it's one of those things that they consider constructive notice, where we put the notice out and it's kind of on everyone else, and it seems ridiculous if we have one notice and, what's that?
The abutter thing.
The notice.
It doesn't happen for site plan.
So it depends on the type of project and what thing. So we only have that requirement for certain proposals. So there are a lot of things that can come in that there's no need.
I think we initially had one.
So I can support him.
Okay.
There's several points of net to capture audience attention and neighbors' attention. The first point would be when we go to the Board of Health, when we go to the Planning Board, when we go to Conservation. Each town, each board has its own requirements to send out newspaper, direct mailings, depending on the distance from said such plan to neighbors, and then word of mouth. And we went through Conservation, we are going through Conservation. I believe, what else do we do, notices as well? Planning Board is newspaper, I think, or just the board outside?
Just the board on
Initially,
this.
when
Yeah,
the first,
so-
it was the first conservation meeting that they had. There was a landscaper there, he couldn't really answer any questions. They were wanting an easement, and that wasn't gonna happen. And so then we followed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
It-
one
it
of the
was-
easements that cut down
Initially,
trees.
yeah, initially, that's,
When,
that was, well,
The conservation meeting.
July or
The week before the
August?
meeting, you guys didn't show up at. Like,
Yeah.
he went to
July.
conservation first, because you guys were second. But then they said, it should have been the other way around.
It
I
was
think
July.
planning, then
He
conservation.
was an environmental engineer and he couldn't answer our questions.
No, I think he was a landscape.
It's, yeah.
Landscape
Well, he said
engineer.
he was some sort of environmental engineer.
I think also, to be fair, you guys, most of you were at the last meeting and heard what I said about how I felt. And I think that had a lot to do with the feedback from the historical committee and, not to keep poking, but the absence, right? I was, to be transparent, I was very ready for this conversation, thinking they were just gluttons for punishment. To stand my ground of what part of no didn't you understand, right? To be fair, this is a very different conversation than what we were having a month ago. To be fair,
Well, we were able to have the conversation.
we're able to have the conversation,
That's the best kind.
which makes it drastically different. Now, again, we're not going to have, as with the previous people on the docket, we're not going to have a yes or no conversation tonight because it's going to have to go to peer review and all these other things. But this is all very, very important for you guys to be here so that we can make the best decision based off of what you guys want to have. At the same time, they have to have their right in a commercial area to abide by the guidelines to be here. So, but this is, I'm not kidding. I was ready to roll my sleeves up, thinking we were having the same conversation. This is not the same conversation.
Right, so now can I put on the other side of the hat, and how is this gonna benefit us financially? Taxes, property taxes, sales tax, what are we gonna get from this to take away all this space that is giving us somewhat of a nice little neighborhood? Is it gonna, we have to start benefiting
Cranberry sauce
in a huge, what?
for everyone.
Cranberry sauce. I don't like cranberry sauce.
Year's worth of free cranberry sauce, you might get a yes vote. I'm at 21 Arrowhead. I love cranberry
My
sauce.
biggest problem this year is my.
No, it's different because it's off.
You got kids?
Not to joke or make light of it, but of course it's a
No,
serious
still
conversation.
commercial.
So not to
No, but
joke
I'm
about it.
serious, like.
It's the
we
farm
know when we
itself
put
that
up
would be
these spaces that
61A.
are Taking away from
Yep.
the small town feel of our town.
Yes.
And
Although-
it's gonna be another big building, is it gonna, I mean, the
Questionable.
pot stores,
But-
regardless, they were, the
Absolutely.
money was the big thing. Is this gonna actually benefit us?
But
I-
all right,
do you know
so
what I
I
mean?
understand the idea of how it benefits the town, but we also have to remember that how this benefits the person that's asking. If you know what I
Yeah,
mean. So there
yes.
are a lot of times where, like, you know, an individual home is like, hey, that's great for me, and maybe it's not
Right.
great for everybody else.
Right.
As far as taxes, I can tell you that buildings collect more taxes than vacant land. That's a definite. But I think
Unless
we
it's
definitely
not
have to
farming.
look
Well,
at.
that's my question, was farming.
we
Well,
def-
it does have over 6 acres, so if they did apply to do some sort of farming, they could get a 61A assessment.
So if you wanted
Well-
to talk about the bigger picture, like you were saying before about this being step one in the bigger picture, I mean, they are a farm company, so they could technically.
But they would
Apply.
have to prove that they were doing something to produce farm.
So,
On that.
if you,
This is
yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Not on the.
not on that property. That's taxed
Wait, what?
business as a.
yeah, so.
well, it can be there is an agricultural 6B.
On that property,
That-
it is no longer a farm.
So.
But there, no,
Okay.
that's not true. It's an agricultural 61B.
Agriculture only applies to raw land.
So if I.
No,
Yeah.
that's not
I
true.
Yeah, you
support
can.
Everybody on the argument. 'cause I do
61B.
the 61A and 61, I understand what he's saying.
But the
So
61B also would apply here.
what happens is the chapter 61, 61A and B, quick crash course. 61 is for forestry, you need a minimum of 10 acres, contiguous farmland where you can harvest wood and lumber. For 61A, you need 5 acres of contiguous land, not
6, yeah.
controlled or constructed raw land where you can farm. Either vegetables, hardwood, have animals. You need a contiguous of 5 acres and be able to produce $500 based on a Schedule F, which is a farming tax code. In our use, to go back to the question, not tangent, what does it bring to the town? Other than taxes, if we build a building, the building will be taxed as a building. So the assessors will go take an aerial photo, do their calculus magic on the computer, and they will
And then
give us
deduct.
coding. On the tax sheet, when you read your taxes, it says what the building use is. If it's residential, you get a certain code. If it's commercial, you get a certain code. and then it's multiplied by the square footage of the building, the grade of the building, so on and so forth. So, to answer the 61A question, if we wanted to put it in 61A, we're able to, but the amount of money you're saving without a building there versus having a building is minuscule compared to the amount of taxes that would be paid over the use of the property everywhere. So for example, right now, it's wetland, we can probably grow cranberries there, but it would cost more than it would be feasible to build. So we would be leaving it as it is. So most likely, we would be taxed at business rate, which we already are being taxed at. Nothing would change, only the value and use of the building, which would increase our taxes. Back to what we're bringing to the town, we're bringing a small business back to the town. We're not a Walmart, we're not a Home Depot, we're not an Ace Hardware, we're a building. Whatever can fit in 4,950 square feet, that's what we're gonna use. If it's a dentist's office, a lawyer's office, a small, learning school or a TLC down the road, who knows? But today it's an office building with retail mix.
Or Cumbies,
I don't think a Cumbies would fit there.
but that kind of thing.
I don't
Yes,
believe a
well-
Cumbies could fit there.
Well, like the old Eskies, small.
Or some sort of convenience
Like a
store.
convenience store?
Yeah.
On the first level.
It depends on the outline. So usually companies like that, or businesses that would come, they don't like awkward shapes. They don't like narrow parking lots. They look at consumers coming in and leaving real quick. If you go down the street to Cumberland Farms, it's designed beautifully because it's set back. Gives a lot of the customers a view of the interior of the store. And they're able to go in and out with ease. With here, you only have 2 parking spots next to the building. No customers are gonna wanna walk the 50 feet to go in. So any potential investor is not gonna look at it for a Cumberland Farm or a Tedeschi's. That's my opinion as an investor and builder and manager, but that could be anyone's decision. If you guys came one day and said, I wanna build it and I wanna make it a daycare, you'd have to come back to the town and pull those permits. But right now, we're only looking for an office building, where whoever's gonna make that 50-foot walk or 70-foot walk is gonna complain for 5 minutes and then go to their desk. When we say retail, if we're an office currently in the cranberry business, we're not gonna sell our bags of cranberry from that office. We have samples. Usually it's gonna be a nice setup, pretty display. People come in for a meeting, they see test our samples, and then we make a purchase order. If it's not me running the company and it's someone else and it's a different business, they're gonna have this similar approach. They're not gonna try to squeeze in 100 employees or 100 customers in a 28, 29 parking building.
And that's where the special permit for a change of use would come into play, and then that's where the traffic and how many people do you expect to come in and out, and then we'd have this conversation just a little bit more.
To truly add to the value of the town, we're building a beautiful building. The appraisal value of the building will be higher than normal, because it's a higher quality, historically designed building. So it would increase potentially values around the area. It is a business district, we would be adding a business to the district. So the potentials are numerous, but to be able to put boundaries on specifically, it's nearly impossible.
Just a question to the people behind me, is, anybody representing Alden here?
Where's Alden?
No, I don't think she's here.
What's Alden?
Isn't that, they're the people that live next to that proposed,
Here?
yeah, they were here for the first meeting. but,
She doesn't
yeah,
know, I don't think.
She
Yeah.
does, I told her.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just-
What about the other property?
Which one is
The one with the house that was built fairly new over by the retention area?
Yeah, I don't know. They-
As far as someone representing that?
Somebody knows,
Oh,
somebody knows.
okay.
Look at the abutter
He's got a
notices
pretty
yet,
wide
like, yes.
buffer now, but.
That would have already been done. It doesn't, it's not required for this.
Oh, it's not?
No.
The next meeting?
No,
Because of the zone, because it's zoned for.
because it's a
commercial
site
anyway?
plan. Because it's a
Yeah,
site.
so a lot of times, when something's being asked for by right, and that's usually when you would have no notification. So if someone was asking for something with waivers that required special permission, then we would have a public hearing. But there's a lot of things where we've just decided a person has the right to do, so then they you know, they don't really need any feedback, nor is any applicable, I guess. At that point, it's their,
Because it's
There-
what it's zoned for, because it's what it's zoned for.
because,
and it's
yeah,
not requiring any special.
if there are no special permits, yeah. So there's a lot of times where a simple subdivision or a Form A lot, which would, you know, require no approval, where there's really, there's no foreseeable impact on the town either. And that's part of the reason why there is no notification, is that you can click, you could say that this project is contained within itself and has minimal
So
impact.
unfortunately, to the communication piece that you had asked earlier about it being very inefficient, the town and each board has specific requirements to display it for your availability. Unfortunately, and I do not want this to come out wrong, it's on the residents to do the due diligence to look it up themselves. So
Yeah.
although that's not the best answer, it's not efficient,
Yeah.
certainly not, especially this day and age, but they put it
I'm
there.
gonna go one more question. On the gray there, close to the road,
Yep.
that gray line,
This one here?
all right, is that gonna be open, or will there be trees planted there? So at some point in time, you really don't see the parking lot area?
How do you plan on shutting that?
So,
Down.
depending on topography,
This right here I'm looking at,
yeah.
which is, again, what you're
So-
looking at.
so
Yeah, is that just grass strip?
So right now, it is gravel, and our
Yep.
intent is to put a curbing and bring back grass.
Just grass?
For now.
No shrubbery or?
We want to be able to model all the other locations in town, follow the bylaws, as well as not bring attention to the property. So if we put flashy flowers or
Doesn't have to be
lights
flashy,
or
just
fences-
green shrubs.
Well, we have that as part of the site plan. is-
Listen, not for nothing, but we went from absolutely not to some green shrubs, so let's take the win and run, you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not going to say no.
Yeah.
I'm not
Just
gonna
wondering
say
what was
No, it's-
thought to be there, that's all.
Absolutely, and if you see our properties that we manage and maintain, they're beautiful. So, at 313 Plymouth Street, down the street, we have shrubbery, a small sign, beautiful grass, and we would be
Where is that? It's behind?
right
the
behind
insurance?
Florida.
Is it that big, this garage type building that's set
It's
back there?
before that, I believe, yeah.
No worries.
That almost proves his point in a strange way. But it shows there is a lot going on. That you
I
could,
think I'd like to just leave, not leave yet, but leave myself with, it's really important, I think, for the board, to really spend some time looking, I know it sounds stupid, and maybe, I just don't like the word, there's nothing we can do. The road, the traffic situation, how dangerous it is.
Dick, let me answer this for you. Site plan review and considering a site plan, the planning board shall seek to assure reasonable use of the site according to the following criteria. 1. Protection of adjoining premises against detrimental uses of the site during and after construction. 2. The convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian traffic movement within the site and movement to and from the site, considering adjacent streets, property, and improvements and alternate routes between the site and nearby destinations. 3. Adequacy of the methods for controlling surface water during and after construction, particularly the potential for minimal or zero increase in storm runoff for storms of up to the 25-year interval. 4. Provision for the off-street loading and operation of vehicles incidental to the normal operation of the establishment. 5. Functional and aesthetic compatibility of development with uses existing or allowed on adjacent properties. 6. Residential privacy provided by site and unit layout. 7. Adequacy of the site for any expansion allowed by applicable density standards. So there's a lot of, yes.
Yeah.
And children.
Open space and all that, so location of water supply, type of dwellings, whether it's mixed or not. So I will say that I have, some holdbacks on the parking being on another lot because it is on the market. And that lot on the market is only 0.9 acres, which is less than our smallest lot, which of course is grandfathered, but you sell that off, that already becomes not applicable with our bylaws. So that would be my thought process to begin with.
Can you repeat that point? What's
Yes,
the point?
when you sell off that lot,
Which one?
592, which
Yep.
is currently on the market for $449,000, and it is a .9 acre lot. It does not, it is a grandfathered lot, however, it is not up to the standards of our current bylaws. And on it, we put on parking for a lot number 0. So, my questions would be to find specific answer on that, because in my, thought process, in any district, this is our off-street parking bylaw. In any district where permitted, no use of the premises. So it is one premises, it is not two. So you, in my eyes, there is not, an allowance for an easement. That would provide the property that you are developing currently to have parking on another lot, because it is premises, it's not premises, it's premises.
So may
Like
I
the
ask-
one lot, so this, hold on,
Yep.
this needs to have all of the parking on it, or you'd have to think of that as only office and create the amount of parking spaces that are required for that building on that lot without using that, in my opinion, because then we get into the traffic going out in all different areas, and that's the safety of our residents and the people, which is our main concern for being on the planning board. It is not to retrofit and try to find different ways around things. Our job is to represent the residents of the town of Halifax and the bylaws that are set forth in this book.
So if I may, and I agree with you, Don, do you have any feedback on?
Yeah, I mean, you're raising, interesting questions about the use of that lot, but, I mean, the bottom line is, it's a grandfather lot. It's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. It's an undersized lot. They've acquired rights to use that for parking. If that is sold, if the residence aspect of it is sold, to be used for residence, all good. I mean, that, everything works. They're on notice that it's subject to this easement, and that affects the value of the property and the sale price. But if it's sold, I'm just trying to cover, the options here. If it's sold and it's a change of use, that goes in no longer residential. That goes to the ZBA for a special permit. So if the scenario that is, concerned here, like these other scenarios that we discussed tonight, it comes back to the boards. And in this case, there's a change of use of that residential for a new owner. It not only has to go through site plan review, it's got to go get a special permit from the ZBA to get a, 48 section 6
Yeah.
authorization.
No.
And that
Currently
gives
for us-
everybody here an opportunity to say,
Yeah.
wait a minute here, this is, the ZBA has their own set of rules that they have to apply to that situation. So I hope that addressed.
So before anything were to change on that property, they would, whoever were to purchase it and come back, they would have to come back and get permission to change what it's being used for, to which.
And before they
Would you
even
guys-
do
So-
that, they would have to go back to the easement.
So just
Try
for
to purchase back the easement or the
Is-
legal portion of it, so.
that easement would only exist if we approve this plan, correct?
Correct. And that would pretty much lock in that use. Anyone who buys that property.
I'm just not sure how our acceptance turns into a deeded easement.
Well, we'd have to require it to be.
Yeah, it would be part of the order of conditions.
We could
I
provide,
mean, it would be, I would think the approval could be subject to getting proper legal
that's,
easement to the separate parcel.
And then he would do his homework to make it.
yeah, I think that part would be,
Well, both properties are commercial, it's not like 592 is not just, I mean, they could have a doctor's office or, you know, like, just as an example,
Yeah,
you
in
know, if they can
592.
do, they could.
And what would happen with 592 if they did go to change it? Right now, they have the parking here, and if the design of this building wanted to use parking elsewhere, they would have to come back to the engineering, redesign additional parking wherever they could, but it limits that potential outcome.
Can they not
Yes, we're gonna
access
be
that other
putting-
parking lot from 592?
I didn't hear you.
Can 592 not access that other parking lot?
Currently, what do you mean access?
No, neither property can access, like, so the 592,
Yep.
that parking lot that they're
The green
proposing,
one, yes.
it can't be
They can't
to
drive from the house to
zero,
there.
and
Okay.
592 can't get on to
Because that's where the
zero.
line is right now.
So they're completely separate.
And we're proposing a post and rail fence around it.
Okay.
So, you know,
Have you guys considered doing a traffic study, even though it is not required, only because
It is required. It is
Oh, I thought
required,
they
because
said
I just
because
read
this-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, remember?
No, I know, but I thought originally it was depending on the size of the building that was being built.
I'm gonna push to require, I don't know what my other, what the other members, but I'm
Only
pushing
because we
for it.
have sidewalks there and we have kids riding their bikes to school all the time and up and down 106. My thing is, I thought originally they had said because depending on the size of the building, if it was under a certain square footage or whatever, there was no traffic study that needed
so
to
if
be
I
done.
may
No,
support
Mary,
that.
I assure you, like, those things that we just said about the site plan,
So,
you know I take it
Yes,
serious.
absolutely,
so if I may,
yes,
right now, it's very dangerous as it is,
yes.
because it's existing.
Mhm.
Open the entire frontage. What we're proposing to do is mitigate down to one entrance, so that cars won't be driving in and out, 18-wheelers won't be coming in and out as it is now. So it would be making it safer in this parking lot.
Yeah, we don't find that an issue. I'm gonna be honest with you, that space right there, we don't find it an issue.
Usually just sleep in there with night.
But, in fairness, it's available for people to do,
Yes.
to turn around and stuff. What
Yeah.
he's saying is by doing this,
Yeah.
it's significantly restricting the ability to just randomly pull in and do a U-turn or whatever.
And same down here,
I don't see that happening.
Never,
very-
never.
Almost never. And
What he's doing is he's eliminating that opportunity
I
altogether.
understand, but you can't say, well, it's very unsafe now when something's not even happening.
and that's the,
I gotcha.
Call it unsafe.
it's the potential.
Well, yeah, but
The potential would have happened already because that lot's been there across from Davis for years and years.
Again, I use that as a UE. Oh, I forgot to go somewhere.
Right.
Right in there. I've done it myself. I live right across the street.
I believe
So,
that.
and I couldn't agree with you more. That's not what it's being used for now on a high volume,
It's not,
right? This, with some green shrubs, will eliminate that altogether.
And then, as well, we understand the concern of the citizens, and whether we get approval or not. It's incumbent on us as citizens to come back to the town and request them to, the town, go to DOT or the highway department to figure out the better solution for Carver and its essence intersecting with Plymouth Street. Whether we're developing or not, that's still an issue. And as you said, years ago, you moved here because it was a slower town. It's a progressing town. There may have to be work done, whether we're doing it or not, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. And hopefully, us as the people here tonight don't get the blunt end of all that energy. But once we do our site review, or the process that the town is looking for us to do, it's probably gonna come back positive for the design we've done, because we've hired a reputable engineering firm who did the engineering work, and the site plan review is what it is, a review. Hopefully to tweak and twist and turn and move around parts of the puzzle to make it work for everyone. But the current moment, the current traffic that there's now, the adding of the 28 cars or so, may not impact it the way we're expecting it to. We're not creating a stop and shop, we're not creating hundreds of cars per hour on the traffic. So the conversation might not be here, it might be in front of a highway department or another question to be raised to the town at a different venue, or it might be them for Carver and Plymouth Street.
Just so you know, not to interrupt, sorry.
No worries.
Just so you know, it doesn't have to be 100 cars, it doesn't have to be 50 cars, it doesn't have to be 20 cars.
It takes that one accident.
Well, I'm not even talking about an accident. it's, again, for people who've lived in this area, and even, and then knowing what goes on down further in the more retail area, if it's a retail, place that draws people, and retail people want to draw people, then, you're gonna get, just to let you know, and there's no really answer, but there is gonna be traffic there, even if you're saying it's 15 cars, 20 cars. I just want the board to, you know, those are kind of things that you, when you discuss, that we kind of look at those kind of things, that's all.
Absolutely.
No, there's no, I don't want an answer or anything like that,
No worries.
just to kind of put it in people's.
I mean, I don't wanna come across like a selfish snob, but even
Quincy.
today, at 3:30, I couldn't pull in to my street.
I'm from Weymouth.
I know, I'm just saying, I couldn't pull into my street for
Now-
maybe 5 minutes, and this is 3:30 in the afternoon. It isn't rush hour, but it actually is the start.
Stop.
And people pass, Halifax becoming like a pass-through, which is like Braintree. Yeah, I'm a truck mechanic for a dealer. At 2 o'clock, I do not road test vehicles in Braintree because I cannot drive.
So when I grew up down the street on Firefly Road, we have a cul-de-sac, and it comes down to a stop sign. And then, many years ago, they added another chunk of houses. That's volume, that's kids, that's people. But it's still that same stop sign. And on that main road, we have several entrances to other farms that 18-wheelers, when during picking season, change traffic. Right now, how I look at it, and I hope you guys interpret it the same way, the traffic coming from Carver Street, Plymouth Street, and I forgot the name of the street that turns to go toward.
Yeah.
That brings in a lot of traffic as well.
105.
105. And currently, all you have there is a stop sign and a
More
big
lights.
green sign that turns left.
How
So-
long
Yeah,
does
so
this
just,
project take?
if anyone does as far as the lights go, I am opposed to those, and there is no way it was helped. We want 106 to move as quickly
Yes.
and flow
It's
as,
the artery that's
yeah,
pulling
that's-
cars out.
we don't want to slow that traffic down.
How long would a project of this size take to build?
Depends on the permits. Once the permits are issued.
From breaking ground, I think is what
Oh,
it's, breaking ground to finish. Yeah.
It usually depends on the contractors and the vendors and the materials. A rough number, if you're very advantageous and supportive, 6 to 8 months. If you're very slow and circumstantial, it may go up to a year and a half. But the longer it is for us, the more expensive it gets. Paying guys to sit and twiddle their thumbs is expensive. Paying, electricians, fees and fines for delays or plumbers or carpenters, it gets expensive. So as us as an owner, it's cheaper and more advantageous to be as quickly and efficient as we can. But we don't want to cut corners and then have more work later on.
Well, it only becomes expensive, if the permits slow down. Once you get your which has nothing to do with us, but when the permits get all set, then you're ready to go. You don't have to worry about later or this or this.
No,
It's,
I've had
other than
circumstances.
supply chain
Yeah,
issues
supply
and things
issues.
like that,
That's not-
which are
that's not
a
about-
significant
that's not
thing.
about us.
But as far as on average, based off of the size of that, I would expect construction to be 8 months.
Yeah.
And you can't hold me to it,
Sure.
but just based off of something that size.
I would agree.
You know, that's,
Year and a half?
You know?
Well, we're quoting 6 to 9 months to build a cape nowadays, so.
yeah, I mean, there could be like,
May I
you
ask
know,
the question why though? Can you elaborate why?
I was wondering how, because we'll be having construction equipment coming across that road on that main drag where there's so much traffic into that area, whether it's digging out or building or whatever, and it's just gonna be, I think that will just,
I believe.
then it'll be too late for you to see the actual effect of traffic in
No,
all
I
that.
understand. And for me, I'm right down the street in my office at 313. I think during the construction phase, we would be keeping material on site. We would be keeping equipment and construction material, equipment on site as well. The only times we would require to inflict on traffic would be, I think, cut in for the water and probably paving. But in those days that would happen, we would have police detail and the normal course of construction. They would have, cones and the appropriate methods of construction, just like any other construction projects that have happened in the past.
Okay. All right.
What is the process to move this along?
Okay. I think at this point, I think all of, most of our concerns have, been brought up. I think the next thing to move forward is also to send this to review. I think there's a lot to think about. I think we're gonna take some serious consideration into the parking issue. On researching that as well as waiting for the review engineer. I think the main issues have been addressed. I, for one, am personally happy that we had this conversation. I think we were deprived of it last time, and this is a great step.
And if I may, is there any way that the town can digitally supply to everybody if they have any questions? They're more than welcome to follow up.
I would say if anyone does any questions, you can always write them into our board, and even if you can't show up. Yeah, Amy's wicked good at reading them in, you know what I mean, to make sure that everybody gets the, you know what I mean, but she makes, no, I'm just saying you make sure that everybody gets their voice heard. So if anyone's concerned about that, hey, I can't make it, or, just feel free
We'd like
to.
to see if the traffic study, when we do a traffic study, where the best location, if the traffic study would even do this, or I don't know if it would, or if that goes back to the peer review, where that.
The idea of
entrance
moving that.
Of that, I don't, not whether you move it down the street, now it's in Stony Way, or you move it closer to the mobile station directly across from Davis. I'm not sure, that's above my pay grade. I would just be curious because you do have the ability to move it.
I'm a civil engineer as well, so as a traffic study, they take several points in the study to help support projects or change projects. So line of sight is one of the biggest things.
Yep.
Being able to have a line of sight within a car without briars, shrubbery may help, or a simple picket fence may help, but having a line of sight going and coming from the street supports radiuses and turns. So if a car's coming up to the stop sign to turn left or right, they're going to have to wait for their waiting traffic. Having a reduced amount of bushes so that they're able to see line of sight reduces down wait time. Secondly, radiuses. The amount of type of cars that will be going in and out will be residential cars. We're not looking for 18-wheelers to come in. The largest vehicle that we would expect would be a fire department, fire truck, which has to follow the radius of a fire truck for the fire marshal and fire chief's recommendation and design. And our dumpster, which is a direct straight, tucked in behind the on the side of the building rather, where the dump truck is able to come in, dump the garbage, be able to turn around and leave. We're not looking for an 18-wheeler turnaround. We're not looking for a gas station one way going in and out. Simply, it's designed for cars, residential cars, or rather passenger vehicles. And
if you
the
could.
fire department.
Not oil delivery trucks.
Yeah.
If you could, also maybe
Too soon.
on the traffic site, maybe someone can stand over by Mobile and find out how many people, like myself, cut through Mobile instead of Carver Street because
Alright.
you can get out quicker.
So that's one thing that realistically you have to assume is that when you're at the end of Carver Street, looking left,
Yes.
you actually will have a greater line of sight from what's proposed. Realistically, you'll be able to see further and pull out slightly easier. Not saying the traffic will allow for it, but as far as
It won't.
no,
Why do you
it
say
is.
that? Why do you say that?
All right, so the distance when you try to look left, right?
Yeah.
When you're at the end of Carver Street,
Yeah.
it's tough. You can't see that far, and they're coming quick. Where he's proposing, you're going to be able to see to like Curtin's house or something like
Why?
that.
'Cause
You'll be able to see so much further down to your left,
Why?
and that's because you see there's a little bit of a curve, right?
I think I can explain it a little easier.
Sure, go for it.
You will
It's
see
called
it from
peripheral
here now,
vision.
but maybe
So
not that far.
if you hold your hands,
But I got
like in
exactly
college
what
they
you
taught
mean.
us,
Totally.
you hold your hands at 180
To like
out.
105, maybe.
Yeah.
Line of sight is 180 degrees. When you start narrowing down, you're unable to see those blind spots. So when you clear bush,
Yeah.
shrubbery, branches, and have actual 4 feet or 5 feet.
So you're talking about clearing the branches?
Branches, so when you
That's
have a width of a pavement, you have the pavement, but then you also have 2 or 3 feet after the pavement of open line of sight. So that would mean
I
we
don't think it's the line
would.
of sight that's the problem, like, even if I can see, I'm just seeing how
No, but
fast I can get.
that's part of the traffic.
It
study.
makes a big difference.
That's part of the peer review.
It's not what we're gonna do right now.
Yeah.
So
Right?
it's not about just counting cars, it's about line of sight, stopping distances, type of asphalt. There's a lot of things that go into it. So the most important concerns is line of sight, because that's the largest calculation that they use to design those stopping distances, as well as they will calculate the distance from the stop sign out to see how many cars can potentially turn left or only right, similar to various other properties in town and other local towns. So once that peer review does their job, they'll find either our design adequate or add difference in changes that would be required.
Will it stay as a one-way, either way that it'll come up and you can, there's only one lane, you have to stay in that lane to take a right or a left?
I
Do
don't
you know what I
know.
mean?
You don't have enough
No,
width.
we don't have enough width, but
Okay.
I don't know, we have the potential to utilize that, but how, when you go to come to a perpendicular property, you have to be at a 90 degree. So you don't wanna leave a property at an angle. So we have to have a turn so that it's perpendicular.
What about in the front of the building?
Where, over here?
Yep, when you're pulling in and out, are you gonna have an in and an out, or you're just gonna have one?
We
Because
have,
to me, that's a dangerous of
do we
someone
have
pulling
enough?
out.
I
It's
believe
two, it's two lanes,
We have-
entry and exit.
okay. I know it doesn't seem fair to assume it without being on site, but we have it graded at 60, or rather, scaled at 60 feet. So
There's a lot of room in
it's a
there.
lot of room. It looks small on this, but there's a lot to put in such a thin page,
Plus it's
small
dark
page.
outline.
So
It's thick
if,
dark outline.
if you guys truly need like to zoom in, come and take a look. I believe the town has it on digital or maybe on the website.
We also have it at the
You can
planning
zoom
board
in
office.
and 60 feet is a lot. Right now, your car is 7 feet, 8 feet. And how much do we have here? We have 26 feet.
26 foot aisle.
We have a lot of space.
So I think a lot of the smaller details are going to be scrutinized through that peer review. So
All right,
if
at
it's
this time-
okay,
At this time,
if everybody's good, if anybody has anything else they'd like to add, I'll make a motion that we send this off to peer review.
I would like to add to that. I would like to send it off to peer review, traffic study, and stormwater management.
would you like to amend your?
I would like to amend my motion that we send it off to peer review, traffic study, and stormwater management. What she said.
I also would like to read in a couple of things. Should I do that now, or do you want me to motion it and then we'll make a discussion?
So-
or
I have a motion, if you'd like a second.
We have
I'll
a-
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay.
So, Mike Witham, the fire chief of Halifax, sent in, after a review of the plan, everything looks okay to me. My only thought is I would like to see the left side parking lot extended to the end of the building so we could have quicker access to the back portion of the building in an emergency. Thank you, Mike. We also have septic plans on September 27th have not been submitted or approved for either address. And we have building department saying per 521 CMR 23.3.3, at least one accessible parking space shall be designated van accessible. And at their meeting, so this is from Alarna Snow, the Secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and at their meeting on Monday, October 3rd, the Zoning Board of Appeals expressed their concerns with increased traffic and tree removal that has already begun behind the Red Barn. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we have things set in motion. I
And
think we are now currently moving forward.
We need to do.
As
an
far as
extension.
extensions, would you kindly agree?
How long would you anticipate the peer review will take?
I just want to make sure that we have at least 2 meetings.
So we have the 3rd and
Um,
17th and then October 10th.
Okay, so we can talk to them again on the 3rd?
All right.
Well, yes, they technically don't, but they're probably not gonna wanna come back on the 3rd because we're probably not gonna have peer review by then.
Okay.
And then, so I think we might as well be proactive so that we are all here right now, we can all sign and it'll make it easier.
Whatever.
So I think that we should go until,
November 17th.
well, I think we need more time after that, so I think that we should do, if we did a 30, it would bring us to December,
Oh, you're talking about the extension, not
Yeah.
to have them come back.
yeah, it would do it, if we did a 30, it would bring us to the 10th or the 9th
So here,
of December, and then that way we don't have to worry about signatures. Does everybody, you guys think 30 days so far would be okay?
Yeah,
Are you asking for December 1st?
No, December 10th.
Armory, usually we use Armory, right?
Because then that way it would give us November 17th, and then, because they're the
December
10th, if we
1st.
did a 30, and then we'll have enough time after that meeting, just in case to sign anything if we needed to, and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, we don't have to use it.
I see what you're saying,
It's
but
just-
as long as, I just want to, yeah, if we have 2 meetings, once we get the information, I agree with that, right? Because we need enough time.
Yeah, so is it yes, Paul?
Right.
I think if we may,
Yep.
we'll say yes to the 30 days, but it might be more, because it depends on.
Well, we can extend it.
We
again.
could,
Okay,
yeah, we did, I just want to make sure that we have, time to get it back, and then we have some back and forth. Okay.
now, just to ask the board and everybody, will I have to be present next time, or are you guys satisfied?
Oh, you have to show them every time now.
Oh. I got three
You're only down the street.
I got 3 little ones at home.
With 18.
Oh, no. You want to compare little ones?
All the ones which are worth.
So hold on, I would like to respond to that though, real quick. So, because of how well you articulated your point tonight and how well you answered it, as much as it may be better, like for you personally, I know I took a lot of value in the points that you brought up. So it may be advantageous to you to show up at the next one,
No problem.
but that's just me.
Might help your cause.
It's nice to have somebody be able to answer the questions that are asked
Yes.
in a civil, articulate
No
manner.
worries.
So.
We may have less to ask next
And I have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, so if I gotta be here, you gotta be here.
I got a 1-year-old, a 4, and an 8, so we're counting.
Hope you bought one of the John and Son books. It's a good book. It's a good read. I got you.
All right, thank
right
you,
there,
everybody.
and I'll just, yeah, so we'll get you a copy.
Thanks,
And
Amy.
you're welcome. Have a nice night.
So, I think 2
Thanks,
weeks.
guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Well, you've already got a proposal for CDC.
No, but he's usually like pretty quick on that stuff. I know that we just sent that other thing earlier off to him, but I would expect. And that way, I think that gives us a little extra time.
So what date would I continue?
We continued until December 10th, but
So our next meeting will be December 10th?
If you don't mind, that would be appreciated.
the next yes.
December,
Unless the peer review
Unless,
comes in
yeah.
sooner.
Our next meeting is November 3rd, but we probably won't be ready.
We
so
should be
November
continuing
Yeah.
to a
17th.
specific date.
And then if not, it would be, December.
December
That-
1st.
December 1st.
Is that the
After
first
that.
meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
First Thursday.
I did notice that.
I didn't know.
The citizens all have an issue with those intersections. So, would that be you guys for them to bring that up to the Because I understand their point, but
Yeah.
nothing we're gonna change.
So I will drill in the point that we have to look at the impact that you're having on it, not whether or not the traffic was good before or will be after, you know.
It's just an expectation.
There's, I think that, I don't want to use the drop in the bucket term, but if you know what I'm saying. If we have an issue and you're adding 4 cars an hour, is that exasperating the problem? Is that creating a problem?
do you expect to get comments from the highway?
Yes.
Yeah, I know, so maybe they can shed some light.
Hopefully, and,
But we understand you want to try to stuff.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah, to the residents.
So I'm
It's
still not
it's
clear,
the biggest
what
point
date
of
are we
concern on
talking about?
106, really.
Who do you guys use?
17th
Ah,
of November.
Yeah, and we'll
Okay.
let you know if like we don't have everything in mind, but I'd imagine so.
Okay.
And that's
Joanne's
why,
really good
so,
like that. She'll let you know if we have the
because-
peer review back and everything like that.
because we didn't think we were gonna have the peer review, that's why you would have run into needing the extension, so she recognized that, extended out anyways.
Okay.
So the peer review should be back by the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just that we're gonna want time to respond to it, I would think.
Oh, yeah. And then that's why you can ask for an extension, because it's just been granted to the middle of December.
Yeah, the only reason that, just for the record, the only reason that we were forced into denying it in July was because we weren't gonna meet again, and it was either, it would go.
Yeah, whatever.
We were concerned about
And then
that.
it's an automatic, it could be an automatic approval and our bylaw, so we had to make it.
No, I understand.
I think we all appreciate you guys coming, this really worked out great.
Yeah, that's why we reached out to you right away.
I think the
It
circumstances.
worked.
just
That was the way to do it.
Conversation of the town took the football.
Yep.
No, it was.
We're gonna put a strip club or a mall or.
It's amazing how quick.
So the other thing too is, I think for me, my biggest part is, and I'm only here for 7 years. My wife's born and raised here, but was if you're gonna knock down those 2 red buildings in the historical district and then put up a mini mall, I was like, good luck getting through me.
Yeah, right.
I even said that in the recording. I was like, if it's gonna decline for 2 years, I'm here for 4. So good luck. I said
You're
that.
ahead of time.
I was ready, so I'm not kidding when I tell you, and I'm a business owner myself, and I was ready to go at you guys, and you guys crushed it. So good job.
Change a single thing on the plan.
No, but you articulated it properly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
huge.
We never
You know what I
really
mean?
saw
So-
it. Yeah.
But guys,
Yeah, it was nice to meet you guys.
We need to change on the process.
Thank you so much.
There's no, like a how-to anywhere in the plan.
Yeah.
I just
No.
figured I'd.
I didn't know if we should go to building department first, design the building, do here first, because they changed that foundation of the footprint. What do you do?
Yeah.
East Bridgewater is just, it starts with, you know, the design, the footprint, and then you get to the historical at the end. We didn't know that we. had
Every
to
town
do-
is different.
We've discussed whether or not everyone should get a checklist when they come in through the door.
Yeah.
You know, we
'Cause we'll do it.
Like the
just to
Thunderdome.
funnel everyone.
Just come in
the right
swinging and
direction.
hope you hit something.
When is your meeting with conservation?
We actually had a walkthrough yesterday,
Yeah.
and then,
We're probably gonna continue that. It was the 25th, but we're gonna probably.
and they're only changing, I think, up here, so it's nothing over here. Because we found some, flag.
The drain pipe.
pipe. Not gonna affect this side.
Okay.
Alrighty?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right,
So
so at
we have
this
one?
point, we have no bills. We do have one set of meeting minutes.
We can't do anything with them.
Oh, that's a shame. I believe there is only one real motion left to be made. And I am open to suggestions.
Are we looking to talk about discussions of anything?
Oh, yes, we do still
As I
have
said, we have one more.
discussions.
I don't think he's here because he wants to be here. No offense. I mean.
I know, he usually doesn't hang out this long. Well, you sometimes.
All right. So, information to relocate business at 416 Plymouth Street. So, let's see what we have on this.
It's in that. so quiet in here now.
Hmm.
You know, when you're in a club and your ears are
Yeah, you
ringing
come
with
out and-
music and like
Gotta be honest, it's been a while since I've been in a club.
Saturday night.
Good for you. Good for you. It's not how my Saturday nights roll.
It really wasn't my, but it was fun. Someday.
Mm. Is there any reason
All right.
why we wouldn't do it?
I don't, not really. So after reading the correspondence we have from Pat Maloney, and maybe I'm forgetting something, that's certainly possible. What exactly is he asking for?
I think he's wondering why we can't have tenants approved and it's gonna go right back to the fact that we need a full site plan.
Now
So
it's,
he needs to come back with a full site plan that shows everything and get it over with.
I thought that
Because
was,
if we did that in December and he agreed that if he was gonna have any other tenants, and here we are at this crossroads, that he needs tenants to come in, and we can't do anything because he needs a full site plan, and now we're gonna have another one. We need a full site plan.
now, am I wrong in thinking that that was the last suggestion? I know I didn't make it last meeting, and I don't think.
No, that was 2 meetings
They
ago.
weren't here.
It was
So-
saying that he didn't need to do a full site plan because it was going to be on each individual business. But Amy's point was they were cutting trees down and they were doing that, and that they needed a full site plan because they're changing the topographical map as according.
And they're adding buildings to that situation, and they're cutting different places, so they're cutting different units in half and quarters, because when this last site plan was done, it was King's Market. And the other individual things, it wasn't Wells Church, which is now gonna be cut in half, which was part of the supermarket, and then Tika's, and then the other medical office, and then the other thing, so the parking's all wrong.
This is what I don't-
Everything's all
so-
changed, and now we're gonna add, and I don't even know where you're gonna.
But I thought we were under the agreement when those guys left that they were going to provide a site plan.
Not a full
I
site.
thought so too, so
I
you're
thought-
on the same page. with
Yeah,
me,
like,
right?
that's what I'm saying, I don't know what he's asking here,
Oh, okay.
because I thought that when he left, I was like, well, if you're working with Wemby Engineering, let them know that you need a site plan. And I thought, that's where I'm confused, I thought,
What I'm asking for is from the car wash, where the car wash ends,
yep,
to where Rodney's,
Kitchen.
Awesome.
right there, that open area. That's what I'm looking for, the terrain.
So that's awesome,
Okay.
blossom, however, we need a full site plan of the entire place.
No, I understand, I just want.
Oh, yeah, no. Will you tell him that, because you know him, and will you tell him to get a full site plan to us to follow 16728, because we've been begging.
No, I'm just interested in the open field, the open area. right?
okay.
And he's gonna put like a lean-to, an overhang with plastic on top of it, just to protect the plants. And that's what I'm asking for. I'm not
But you're
asking-
gonna need
all right.
parking and all of
There's,
that, which is
on
gonna
that
be
area
part.
right there, there's 14.
But
there's
it's
14.
the whole place, because
Right.
it's like, there's a mechanic shop that we don't have parking for, there's
I think that
division
the
of,
mechanic pulled out.
Oh, did he?
I think he pulled out.
but still, the
Yeah.
whole entire place needs a site plan. Period, 16728, they need to come in for
Before
site
you can have any tenants in,
period.
or any new tenants.
That's what Bert said, that's what everybody
What is he
said,
working
right?
on now? Is he working on an old site plan, or is he working on?
He needs
So-
to do a new one.
Originally,
A
there was one.
modification.
I'm not sure what the date was, but I'm assuming going back 80s or 90s, and that's just an assumption that back in Shoppers Mart days, that's
Right.
probably when the original one was done. Because of all the changes that were, from Halifax Pizza to the 6 or 7 other ones, there was never any significant change. We never required one, and we never asked for one.
But now it's
Because
happening.
Yes, but now we're at the point where he added the extra building, and there's no way that that was built into that original site plan.
Neither was the division of Kings, which means that the parking
What
is
is
not
the-
there, and then adding of another tenant again.
So I,
Which is
Webby
great.
Engineering did the site plan, right?
yes,
So
Back in the
all
80s.
Webby Engineering needs to do is to do the whole
Modification.
modification of the whole area.
yeah.
And what's in there for tenants and all that stuff?
Yeah, and I really thought that I was in agreement with the guy when he was here. I really did. I thought that I made that clear, and I thought I agreed. And I thought he understood that there,
If you don't mind me asking, what's the whole site plan, what consists of? I mean,
So
what's the
it's gotta
cost?
sh-
The cost was.
all right, that part realistically, I'm assuming is far less because the plan already exists. It's really, it's an update. As far as I'm concerned, it's an updated site plan. We need to see the
It's a
changes.
modification and it needs
Or
stormwater
just an
management.
update, you know?
It's a modification and it needs stormwater management.
But as of right now, it's not, he's not proposing any modifications. As
Yes,
of
he
right
is.
now, I think we need to see what is existing. And I don't think we have anything accurate enough to make any decision right now.
So-
There's no way that we have enough
The
information.
confusion with the last meeting, 2 meetings ago, was that there were a lot of people talking over at each other. So I think that's where the confusion came in. Site plans not being my strength, obviously. I think where it got, the wires got crossed was that Amy was pushing for a full site plan, as what you're saying now as well, to get in there and see where it stands as is right now, because there've been so many changes. And the conversation came over of the yeah buts and the whys and why nots and all these things, and then it became a, well, we don't have to do anything because we're not changing the structure of the building, so therefore we don't need to do any of that stuff, so we can rely on the old one. So I agree that if we're going to be bringing in all these different types of businesses and chopping up the layout of the building, and the layout of the land has changed one way or another since, you know, all those things that were far, you know, predate me, that if you just say to the owner, get a full site plan, have Webby Engineering do a full site plan and bring stormwater and all that stuff, and then from there, you're going to be approved to be sectioning it off to new new businesses.
I mean, the building, it still has the same footprint, right?
Yeah.
Only you guys,
But the land around it has changed.
right.
Right.
But you want to know what the units inside consist of.
Because they've changed
They've changed to.
since the 80s, because they've been
Yes.
broken down. Like instead of it being one big
I
supermarket,
mean,
now
the
it's.
pizza place still there, the bank's still there. I don't know what's
Yeah,
in between.
so that's really the way they were able to make all of those changes over all those times because they were all small and insignificant. But now we've gotten to a point where we don't really know what that site can hold inside that
Right.
building.
And how the topographical.
Especially where now there's that extra building that when he was in here, he was talking about using, and he had never used it before. So that was a change of use. That went from unused to, you know, a proposed
That was
mechanical.
the thing for the laundromat at one time.
Yeah, right, they were supposed to have the water recovery.
Yeah.
That's what I think so, yeah.
Then he fixed it up and, I mean, if I, you know, if I can get a deal with him, I would be interested in that building and the front part of it where the open part is.
So it would best suit you even to have him get started on
Right,
this.
I would, you know, just, that's what I'm here for.
Yep.
I'm here to see what.
What you can do to
benefit
help.
me and benefit the whole area in that place.
Mhm.
I can go up to him and say, hey, whatever it costs for a site plan, for the whole thing, I mean, if I could, you know,
Yep.
be a deal with him, you know, and maybe take the building and the area in the front for display for my stuff.
And say to him that if he had already done this, then the kennel and the mechanic would have been a no-brainer and easy.
I know, I mean, that's why I'm here, to find out what's going on, so I can relay the
Perfect.
message to him. and-
Full,
Yeah.
full site plan solves it all.
And like, you know, his complaint was that he shouldn't have to do a site plan every time he switches occupants.
I mean, once-
And I already explained to him that he's changed occupants 24 times and he's never had to produce a new one. But at a certain
I
point,
mean, once
we
he produces
need accurate.
This holds, this site plan for the whole area, and that's it, then he can do whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Then what would I need to go in there, or would I need a permit? Like when I went into where I am right now, all I needed a permit from the zoning board to operate the business.
We
So-
have to approve the parking spaces and everything like that. so-
yeah, so with if you were just gonna use it for farming,
No, I'm using it for retail, just to
Okay.
sell plants,
just to sell?
and shrubbery and stuff like that.
What you're doing now?
Yeah.
Like with the food and everything inside?
If I don't get the building, I'm only gonna do flowers.
All right, I see what you're saying.
I'm gonna do the outside from where, with it,
Just that
What
ground.
about like all your crafters and everything, like
What's that?
all the local crafters?
Well, I don't think he's getting rid of the original one.
Well,
Oh, got it.
you know, I get a building, but so basically, if we had an accurate site plan from him, then it's mostly the information from you, and we'll be able to apply it to that plan that he provided. But right now, we just don't have anything, you know.
Same thing for the kennel, same thing for the, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just don't see, I don't see how we can get any further without a site plan. And it's not, we're not asking anything,
Do we didn't ask the other
above and
three
beyond what we
people
should
to
be.
do, yeah.
there's a site plan in existence.
Yeah, it's just out of date. Yeah, out of
Modification
date,
of
yeah.
site plan with stormwater management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's,
all I'm here for.
yeah.
I know.
Look at that. You should have went first.
Yeah, sure, yeah. We'll have to work on that timing
You
next
had
time.
fun with us tonight, didn't you?
It wasn't that bad.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Can I third it?
Yeah, you want that strong?
Good night.
I have a strong second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Well done, everyone.
Yes.